Hello, this is Megan for BestOfAtlantaConcerts.com, here for this edition of Artist Talk with Kirk McMillan. He's going to be performing before a Braves game on April 25th and then at Smith's Old Bar on May 23rd. Thanks so much for being here with me today, Kirk.
Well, thanks for having me out here to talk a little bit about me and the new record.
Sure. So I know you only began to play guitar and write songs a few years ago. What were you doing before the music, and why did you make the switch?
Well, I started, well, that's a good question. I was working for my family's business, which is a food distribution company, and I've been doing that for quite a few years and running the business, and realized that there was something else that I needed in my life besides just working the numbers and trying to make a profit, and there was just something, there was a void there. And then on a trip with my brother to Memphis, about that time frame, 5-6 years ago, watching these guys play and off of Beale Street, that I realized that there was something else that I wanted to do, and that was it. So I told my brother that that's what I'm going to be doing in 5 years. So I came back, bought a guitar, and started taking lessons, and it's kind of led to this point now.
That's ambitious. Your debut CD is titled American Dream World, and your sound could definitely be described as Americana. So why all the focus on America? Like, what does it mean especially for you?
Well, the American Dream World title was it was kind of the opposite attraction of, is it an American dream or is it a dream world? So when the song was brought to me by my producer, that Marty Kearns, that it was perfect for me, because I wasn't quite sure if I'm really living in an American dream or whether I am in a dream world or not, and trying to switch careers is really what I'm trying to do, and jump into the music industry, into the music business versus the food business. But the American roots of the record itself was pretty important to me, and a lot of the things that were going on, and being the first record was, there were a lot of things I probably had to say that may not be necessarily so as other records come about, but I think it's typical of a lot of first timers out of the box, that there are a lot of things that are on your mind, and you feel like you need to say something about it, whether it's politics or war or love or whatever it is. So the American part of it was true to me, as being a graduate of the Citadel and having a lot of friends that were fighting in Iraq, and who are working around the world in different aspects, that there's always that camaraderie, that I'm always thinking about these guys, and so there's a lot about that kind of pulls into the subconscious when you start writing songs.
That's awesome. Do you see yourself ever branching out into any other types of music, or what do you see yourself like possibly singing about in the future?
Yeah, I think certainly. In doing this record, it's hard to say. It was kind of a stab in the dark as to what was going to be the best fit for me. Is it rock? Is it country? Is it pop? But it was more natural from a rock perspective, versus a little more stripped down Americana, and not quite country and not quite pop. So the rock just kind of fit that genre, fit the lyrics of what needed to be said in this album. And I think you had something else that I was going to answer that.
What do you see yourself working on?
Oh, in the future, I think most records from most artists are based around primarily what's going on in their lives or what's going around their environment at that time, and I think they pull a lot from that, and at least I know I do. So right now in American Dream World, there was a lot of you can feel the tension and the struggle, both lyrically and melodically in the songs, and there's a lot of tension going on, and there's a lot of heavy lyrics that needed to be said. And I think in the future, a lot of the things that I'm writing now, when I'm looking at writing songs, as I continue to write, they're more based on freedom. So there's more of so personally for me, with American Dream World, there was that tension of I needed to release this stuff, and now I've kind of made that step, and now the lyrics seem to be going more towards the freedom perspectives. And there are a lot of different freedom areas, and the things that I'm writing about are and it's freedom, and you find it in a lot of different areas, which I'm finding very interesting in the content that I'm pulling from. So I think freedom will probably be freedom and dance, maybe the next two areas for the next album.
Awesome. What do you think about the Atlanta music scene as compared to maybe other cities? I know you're homegrown in Atlanta, and you've seen other cities, so how would you compare them?
Atlanta's it's a tough market for, I think, artists that are trying to develop themselves, and primarily because it doesn't have there aren't that many venues and a fan base that allows an artist to continually just perform their art. And it makes it hard for a lot of artists to be able to develop a fan base here. It's a great market. It's a big market. But I think it's difficult for that in a lot of the venues, just because there aren't that many venues to pull from, and there's not an area that you can go to and really know where you can go down and see music. Here in Atlanta, it's like you're going to go to a spot, and it's always going to be a different type of music. And there's so many acts that are trying to come through Atlanta, and so few venues that I think it's difficult for artists to develop themselves here in Atlanta. I think it's just difficult. I mean, certainly there have been some success stories when you look at people from the Indigo Girls and John Mayer and Sean Mullins and those types of acts that have come through. And then secondly, I think I think it's just the sprawled out nature of Atlanta, that the artist community doesn't have the camaraderie that you find in other areas of the country. For the time that I spend in Nashville, it's a totally different scene than it is here, from a base of artists and musicians that are willing to work and want to work with other people to really develop the best music and the great music that they can. And I think that makes Nashville different from Atlanta. So I guess those are probably the two things that I think that I see different from an Atlanta perspective.
Great. I love getting different artists' perspective on that question, because a lot of times it's actually the same kind of answer. The venues are the issue. And last time I interviewed somebody, he said it was the people of Atlanta also that just needed to come out more. So would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I think it, and I think that's just I think it's just the nature of Atlanta. You just look at the nature of Atlanta, where the constructors of Atlanta decided to put a major highway right through the center of the city, and that's just the nature of Atlanta, is that we're just sprawled out, and it's hard to blame the fans, but it is true that the fans don't have a location to go to close to their home. So in a lot of cases, they have to travel a good distance to come see an act, and that's a lot to ask for an artist. And so here in Atlanta, whenever I can get one fan at any show, I'm quite happy, because that means a lot, because they've traveled a long distance usually to come down and do something that they typically wouldn't do.